Okay, we can just go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to Mikayla for being here, and she's going to speak a little bit about her experience in WSP. I recognize a couple of people's names, but in case you're coming in with very little understanding of what the program is, it is part of American University, and we bring students to Washington, D.C. every semester from other parts of the country and other parts of the world to study here and take courses with our Washington semester professors. And Mikayla's going to talk a little bit about what those are like in a while. And then to work in internship, which is a really big part of the program. So we're, I think, nearing halfway into the semester. And really appreciate that Mikayla's coming to talk about her experiences. Before we get into that, if anyone has any questions during the session, please feel free to put them in the chat, or we can get to them at the end. If you have questions for Mikayla about her student experience, or for me about the application process or other parts of the program, please feel free to ask them. We're here to answer. So we'll get started. This is Mikayla, and she's a law, rights, and justice major at Linfield College. And right now she's in WSP interning at an immigration law firm. I realize I haven't said this out loud before, but Dzubow, and Pilcher, she can tell us how to pronounce it. So the first question that we have for you is, there are so many different kinds of programs that bring students to DC. Some schools have them themselves. Other centers are here that bring students from other universities. So why did you choose the Washington Semester Program?
Yes, so hi everyone. My name is Mikayla, and I also was pronouncing Dzubow wrong. I was saying Dzubow for like the first week I was there. So I ended up figuring that out. But I interned at Dzubow and Pilcher, which is an immigration law firm, like she said. And I ended up choosing WSP partly because well, I was planning on graduating a semester early in December, and then last spring, my professors back at my home school said that they had done the program, they send someone every semester, and that they think it would be a perfect way for me to come and like explore post-grad and law school and living in a city. I come from a rural area, and my undergrad university was in a rural area. So I not only came because my professors recommended it and they loved the WSP program themselves, but also to just kind of get the city experience and make a lot of connections. I feel like DC has like, I've literally seen two people from Oregon in politics that I spent so long getting to know in Oregon, and I just happened to like see them on the bus here. So like you see everyone and you make a ton of connections while you're here, which I think is awesome. So hopefully that answered the question. But yeah, my professors like had done it, and my school sends someone every semester. So I kind of knew that like obviously it was a great program just from that. So yeah.
Sorry, I realized I was on mute. I didn't realize you were planning on graduating in December, so I'm really happy that you stuck around and decided to do the program. And yes, we love getting, of course, we have students from all different kinds of universities, but we love getting students from the same university every semester over and over, because then they can talk about their experiences back home. So yeah, it's awesome that your professor recommended it to you. So now to go a little bit more into what the program entails. As I mentioned, a huge part of the program is that every student that comes in works an internship. And one of the biggest things that we offer to students that I feel also kind of helps set us apart is the internship help that we offer to score an internship that's really unique to DC, and that hopefully is something that a student is interested in and will love doing. So we have a couple of internship coaches that help students with their application process. And right when you enroll in the program, you get started with them. That could be a way that you find your internship, is working with them and then applying on your own. We also have a few other ways that students find their internships. So if you could talk about how you found your internship and maybe what your experience working with our internship coach was like, that'd be great.
Yes. So it does, you don't have to, I have had an internship before. So I feel like I had a bit of an experience like applying and reaching out and sending that email and kind of understanding like it's a lot different than a classroom. You're entering like a professional like workforce world, which can be intimidating. But a lot of my roommates and the people in the program, this is their first internship. So don't be intimidated if this is your first time applying. But I felt like I had no connections in DC coming from the West Coast. And so the second I decided to come, I emailed Karen Carter. And she helped me with my LinkedIn. She went over my resume. We Zoomed 3 or 4 times. Basically every aspect of my cover letter, of my application, she perfected for me. So that way I felt completely confident with it. And then they have like a database with a list of connections. And there's even emails like with those organizations or law firms or whatever, that maybe you can't find when you Google these places. And so I basically, for me, I know I want to go to law school. So I took out all the law firms and I applied to all of those. And I interviewed with a few places. I interviewed with the Center for Reproductive Rights. I remember I had a great interview with them, but they sent like a talent director, and I was like a little confused as to what I was going to be doing. And then when I interviewed with the current place I'm at now, the head of the firm personally called me and like was very personable and told me I'd get my own clients. And I just felt like I was going to get the most like learning experience out of being at that firm. So I recommend that when you do start applying, one, don't be intimidated. If you're not getting something right off the bat, I probably sent 20 emails before I even to different places before I got a response for an interview. And then also don't just accept the first internship you're offered, because ultimately you're wanting to learn and do something you kind of enjoy, at least kind of enjoy for a couple months. So really think about, are you going to like the office culture or the kind of work you'll be doing, or are they really going to be helping you learn, or are you kind of going to be making copies? So, have faith in yourself that you can get something good and that you're going to enjoy the place you're interning at. So yeah, sorry, that was kind of a long response.
No, that's great. You touched on so many important things there, I feel like. First of all, that's a great point that our students do come in with all different kinds of experience. You had interned before, but so many of our students haven't. The first semester that you're able to come in the spring and fall is if you're a second semester sophomore. So of course, like a lot of people might be younger and haven't done it. So they get just as much as support as the people who maybe have a little bit more experience. And then also, yeah, you're right. We're going to encourage you to really do so much output, which can feel like a ton of work. But the goal there is so you have choice and you have options, and that you can kind of narrow down your search like it sounds like you did. So it's great that you were able to find somewhere that was going to be a little bit more personal for you and be a little bit more related to your field, which actually brings us to the next question. It sounds like you have law school plans and are really interested in the law. So it's great that you're at an attorney's office. What are you actually doing at your internship, and what would you say that you're learning there so far?
Yeah, so I go in person 3 days a week, which a lot of the people in the program do hybrid, or completely work from home. So depending on what you prefer, you can definitely find an internship that suits your needs. But I like to be in person. I feel like I work better. I have less distractions when I'm in person. So I go in for about, I think it's like 8:30 to 5 every 3 days a week. But and I'm emailing with clients all the time. I'm scheduling appointments with them to work on their affidavits for their cases, which are basically like their personal story. Because all of our clients, most of them are seeking asylum in the United States. So we're writing their story for them in a legal format, which is an affidavit. And then we're also collecting evidence for their case. And this could be photos, letters, degrees, birth certificates, all things that could like back their story. And then I also will sometimes, I've shadowed my boss in court, so I've got to go to immigration court. And then I've also worked on like some the government documents, the immigration forms that would need to go into their case, and those are pretty important. All this stuff's pretty important, but you don't want to mess those up because that goes straight to the government and it can really affect their case. But I really like that I get to kind of have my own relationship with the clients, email them on my own, schedule my own appointments, and I just send the work that I'm doing back to my supervisor. And if he has other things he wants me to work on or changes, he tells me, but I kind of get to do basically as much as I possibly can without being an attorney. And yeah, my favorite story I would say from a client would have to be, I met with them for a couple hours and wrote their affidavit. And then at the end of the meeting, the client gave me a piece of currency from every country they traveled through to get to the US. And I like almost like started crying because I knew how much like they had been through to get to the US. So it's those little moments like that too, where you realize like you may be making like a really like big impact on people's lives in these internships as well. So
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And it's cool hearing because another student who did this, Fortune, had worked for a nonprofit that I think helped teen parents like go get their degrees the last semester. So it's interesting hearing from students who are really like working with the people that they're helping in that way. And I think the cool thing about DC is there's so many organizations like that here to choose from if that's the kind of like really hands-on experience that you're trying to get. And that sounds honestly intimidating, that kind of work. So I'm really impressed that you've been able to like jump into that because that also just sounds like so important to this process and to this firm. So that's really cool. And you actually touched on what my next question was going to be, which
I
was
just realized
as
that.
no, that's fine. That's great. A standout moment from your internship. So that's a really great story. So now we can pivot a little bit. Like I mentioned at the beginning, part of this program is you take courses with WSP, and these are usually pretty different from a normal college course and a normal lecture class because they're much more immersive in the city. They let you go out and about in DC to tour organizations and institutions that call DC their home, or to hear from some really incredible guest speakers, depending on the kind of class that you have. So how would you say, in your words, seminars are different from a normal class? And what's like a typical day in a seminar like?
Yes, so the seminars are a little bit longer than I would say a regular class, but that's because you're rarely in the classroom, or if I am, it's with guest speakers. So I don't even know that I've done a full like lecture this semester. And I usually have like a notebook, like you don't even really need the normal materials. Like I've done museums, guest speakers, tours, just tons of stuff that's out in the city. So if you're looking to see all like the Smithsonians and get to meet, like I got to meet a judge, a federal judge on Monday. I don't know, I've just done a ton of really amazing things. We're planning to go to a district court in the future. So if you're wanting like hands-on like learning and also like to make connections, this is a really great chance to do that. I don't have as much homework, I would say, as I did with my other classes back home, but that's because I'm out every day from probably 8 to 5 doing either my internship or class. So it's not as much like how I used to in undergrad, have a 2 hour class and a 1 hour class, and that was my whole day. And I was delegating my time between homework the rest of the day. It's more so like you'll have a smaller assignment every week for your seminars, typically like a journal. Or I know one of my professors has me take photos at the museums. Like it's not a lot of super stressful homework because they know that you're out trying to get as much experience in the city as you can. And was there something else I was going to touch on?
Well, would you mind saying, so these are for the fall and spring session, by the way, these immersive seminars, and typically we offer about 5 and students are enrolled in 2. Would you mind just saying which ones you're enrolled in?
Yes, I'm in the criminal law seminar and the National Conversations in Crisis seminar, which is kind of like media, social protest type stuff. And if you're interested in law, I super recommend the legal one. But then I think like for your minor, I chose something the same as my minor because I'm a media studies minor, but like just go for something else really interesting. Like I know some of the political ones, like they've got to go to the Supreme Court and meet certain people in the Capitol and just making a ton of connections. So yes, choose something for your major, but also if you're really like interested in taking one of the seminars, take it just out of interest as well, because they're all I'm jealous sometimes of my roommates when they come back like, I did this today. And I'm like, oh, I wish I would have taken that one too. But yeah, so you just get to do a lot and see a lot, and it's all organized for you. So you don't have to worry about like getting passes to places or stuff like that, which is really nice. So.
Yeah, I feel like we definitely, I mean, of course, so many of our students are interested in poli-sci and also with a lot of law involved as well, but like specifically with government. And I imagine those classes have really cool options as well. We have like a US politics class and an international affairs seminar. You mentioned you met with a federal judge. Has there been any particular guest speaker or site visit that you really, really loved, or one that's coming up that you're really excited about?
Yeah, she was probably my favorite person to meet so far. We spoke with a couple lawyers that helped with like emerging youth in the local area in DC too, that provided like legal defense for them and their education, which I thought was amazing. But I was particularly interested in meeting Judge Aiken because she's back from the Oregon, which is where my home
Oh,
university
yeah.
is, and I studied a lot of her case law in school. One of my favorite cases about a group of students suing the federal government for climate change. She was the judge writing opinions on the case. So after class, I stayed for like 30 minutes and talked with her. She gave me her email. She was like, if you ever come to law school out here, please email me. So it's kind of invaluable, like the connections you're going to make. But yeah, I'm really excited to go to the district courts in a few weeks as well. I'm just like a legal nerd, so anything with the law, I'm like super excited for. So
That's so cool, and it's fun that you guys had that Oregon connection to bring you together a little bit out here on the East Coast. Thank you so much. So I think we're gonna get into kind of the final component of the program, which is just regular DC living. If people aren't aware, typically our students don't live on American University's campus. They live in apartment buildings that we are partnered with the provider. And these are in downtown DC and then right across the border in Maryland. And for a lot of students, just like how it might be their first time working a job and becoming independent in that way, it's their first time living in an apartment and out of the dorms. It sounds like you were at the end of your stage of college, so maybe you've lived in an apartment before, but how would you say your like urban apartment living experience has been like so far?
it's definitely, I feel like I got a really bougie apartment, if I'm being honest. It's super fancy. Like they came in yesterday and they like cleaned for us. Like it's a part of our thing, which is crazy. But you can kind of see it if you guys want to like look at
Yeah,
all
this is
the
great.
but yeah, I don't know. I thought I was super nervous because like I said, I came from a rural area. I hadn't really seen a lot of buildings above 3 stories before in my life, but I adapted pretty easily. They're very nice apartments, safe, clean, organized. I loved the roommates I ended up getting. We're all close friends, so if you're nervous about that, I feel like everyone in this program really enjoys like the same things. We all nerd out together about politics and law, and so odds are you'll have at least one of your roommates that you'll actually make like a really close friend with. I know everyone's like made at least a close friend with one of their roommates here, so it's a good thing to look forward to. And then, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have lived in an apartment before, but it's not too crazy different than dorm living. Especially because they're so bougie. There's a concierge downstairs. I'm like, this is so fancy. But yeah, I chose to live in the one just outside of the city just because I knew I was coming from a rural area. I didn't want to overwhelm myself by like being downtown. But even if I was downtown, like I go there visit all the time, I would have been fine. But just know that there's that option too if you are nervous about living downtown, that the apartment just across the border has a little bit more of like a chilled out feeling as well. So yeah.
How is it for anyone who hasn't yet lived like in an apartment building and most of our students because they're in apartments aren't on any sort of meal plan with AU. So how is it doing just basic things like your grocery shopping? And then there's also something that all of our students get, which is a U Pass to get around DC using the metro and other public transit. So how has that experience been too?
Yeah, so I was really nervous to use the metro. I had never ridden anything like that in my life. I've been a car person, like I said, rural area. So I was so nervous. That might have been the most stressful thing in my mind when I flew here, but it's super easy and it can be, if it weren't for the U Pass, it would be so expensive. It's unlimited. You can get anywhere with it. Um, where versus a lot of people that don't have it spend a lot of money. So just know you're going to save a lot of money with the U Pass. And it's really like easy to figure out how to use the metro system, like coming from someone who'd never done it before. So even if you've ridden the subway or anything once in your life, you'll figure it out in a day. Um, and it feels safe and clean and, all those things. Grocery wise, I've always kind of been a little bit lazy. I eat a lot of like soup and
Yeah,
we eat
yeah.
out a lot too because we're in a new city and we want to eat out. But yeah, I don't know. There's like a bakery downstairs that we love to go to. But if you haven't done groceries before, you definitely do have to plan out a little bit like what you want to have and how much you're going to spend and all that because, the grocery store's an 8-minute walk away. So like you don't want to have to go every day. You want to plan maybe once a week you get your groceries or something, but I'm sure everyone will figure it out quickly. It's not too stressful. So yeah.
Yes, and yeah, I agree with I feel like the DC Metro especially is so clean and nice, and unless you're like really using it during rush hour, it's never totally crazy. Could I ask how you get to work?
Yes, so I live on, so there's different lines. There's a red line, green line, silver line, whatever. I take the red line the whole way. It's a couple stops away, so it only takes me about 30 minutes to get from my apartment to my work.
Nice.
Some people it takes longer depending on where you work, but and that's in rush hour too. Like I got pretty lucky. So you could also, if you're really like worried about if you sleep in or are rushed in the morning, try to find an internship close to a metro stop, I guess. Could be something that you consider, but it's really not too bad. So
Well,
yeah.
we're nearing the end of the questions I have for you. This is another one kind of related to DC living, but you've been here about half of the length of the program. Is there anything that was on your DC bucket list that you did, or is there anything that's still on it that you're hoping to do?
Um, yes, I visited DC a few years ago for like a school trip and I did like everything touristy. But I still had like a ton of museums I want to see. They're probably my favorite things. They're free and they're amazing. So I still have like 6 or so museums I want to see. But obviously you have to do all the monuments, cherry blossoms,
Yeah,
restaurants,
it's coming up.
all that kind of stuff. So there's literally every day you could find something new to do. So don't be worried about being bored because you won't be bored.
I know we're spoiled by the free museums. I was in New York recently, and no hate to New York, but when the Met was like $30 for non-New York residents, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to go back to the National Gallery instead or something.
Right.
Okay, so what would you say your favorite memory has been in the program so far?
Yeah. I mean, I've loved all the learning experiences I've got in my internship and through the classes, but I've also really loved just getting to connect with my peers in the program. I feel like I hadn't been surrounded by so many people like me till I got here. I didn't always have people to talk politics and law with back at my school. It wasn't a huge thing. And so just kind of it was kind of like empowering to hear like similar stories and similar goals and dreams. And it kind of starts to feel like a reality when you're surrounded by people who have the same goals and like passions as you. So I feel like that was probably one of my favorite things was just to like be surrounded by people like that. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, where everyone interested in politics wants to come. And then it's also cool because it is like a study abroad program domestically, in that I feel like, if you're taking classes with your peers and, talking about working with them, like you're having all of these shared experiences, which hopefully is bringing you all together even more. So we're actually to our final question, and then we'll get into questions from anyone else who's still here. How would you say so far, I know it hasn't come to an end, but how would you say the program has impacted you both personally and professionally?
Yeah. I think personally it has shown me like how many opportunities are really out there and that the world's big, but also that the world is small. And that just making connections for 5 months or however long you're here is gonna like help you so much in your future. I already feel like a lot more confident for post grad having these connections and these experiences here. And then I also feel like I don't come from a super professional place. Like everyone dresses up here, you show up on time, and you're learning, office culture and email and all that stuff. And so you're just kind of getting used to like what it's gonna feel like post grad. So I mean, I'm really happy I did this like right before I was about to enter the work world because I feel like it's also a good transition out of the like relaxed college lifestyle where you're just going to a few classes, hanging out with friends, where now I'm doing the 9 to 5, thinking about what I want to do in the next few months and how what I'm doing day to day can like affect how that can affect me in my future career. So you just start to get more of like a realistic, like you're living more so how you're going to live post grad. So
So how would you say it's affected your near or far future plans?
yeah, I feel like now like I feel a lot more comfortable applying to law school, and also at the same time like not rushing it. You realize how many opportunities there are to be a paralegal or to travel or to I've applied to these like random programs that are going to help me get into law school. And you kind of realize like to enjoy learning and getting to your end goal just as much as like I know some people are like, I'm gonna finish undergrad in law school in 5 years and go as fast as I can and not have fun, but really you're gonna have fun while you're doing it, and you should be enjoying like this learning process as well. So that was hard for me, but now I finally like learned to like live in the moment a little bit more. So
Well, great. Thank you so much for answering all of those questions. Before we get into any potential group questions, I'm just going to quickly show everyone this page that has a little bit of information about the application deadlines. If you're interested in applying for our summer program, the deadline for that is coming up on March 31st. And the scholarship deadline especially is coming up just next week. If you're interested in fall, that priority deadline is also coming up on March 15th. And that's just really a strong recommendation based on when we think you should start getting in those internship applications. But then the final deadline is going to be May 15th. And then if people have questions specifically about what the application is like, I'm happy to go into them. But right now, I'll just stop the share. And does anyone here have a question for me about the program or application, or for Mikayla about the program? Anything about the application process, or maybe what the internship search is like? Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, well, it might be a questionless session. I'm just gonna quickly share a little bit of my information. Like I said, I think I've been in touch with a couple of you before, but please feel free to reach out to me. Here's my email, my phone number, and then links for starting your application and the WSP website, which has answers to a lot of potential questions. Truly, any question that you have, I'm really happy to answer, especially as we're coming up on some deadlines. And thank you so much again to Mikayla for talking about the program. We really appreciated it. And have you done your Instagram takeover yet?
no, I think it's in 2 weeks.
Okay, everyone be on the lookout for that then, because Mikayla's going to do a takeover on our Instagram, and we'll talk a little bit more about her internship and things like that. But thank you all for coming out. I know that it's getting a little bit late, so I really appreciate it. And once again, please feel free to ask me anything. And have a really good night. Thanks again, Mikayla.
See you guys.